In the beginning of the movie, we meet Truman Burbank, who sells insurance. He lives a normal life on Sea Haven Island and is married to Meryl, a lovely nurse. Truman has never left the island, even though he works as an insurance agent. One day, as Truman is getting ready for work, something strange falls from the sky near him. He checks it out, but the sky seems clear. Despite this, Truman decides to go to work. On the radio, he hears about a malfunctioning plane over Sea Haven Island, which explains the falling object. At work, Truman secretly tries to contact someone named Lawrence or Sylvia. He's been trying to reach this person for a while, but doesn't get any information. His boss, Lawrence, tells him to finalize a deal at Harbor Island. However, Truman can't bring himself to go because he's afraid of open water. That night, Truman talks to his friend Marlon about wanting to explore the world, especially Fiji. Marlon isn't sure about the idea, but Truman thinks it would be fun. After Marlon leaves, Truman sits on the beach alone and remembers his father, who died in a boat accident. Truman wanted to stay longer on the boat that day, despite his father's advice to go home because of bad weather. Sadly, Truman's father was right about the boat being surrounded by waves, and Truman managed to save himself. But his father didn't make it. Since then, Truman has been afraid of open water. Suddenly, rain starts falling, but only on Truman. This puzzles him, and when he checks, it starts raining on everyone. When he gets home, Truman excitedly tells his wife he wants to travel the world. However, Meryl rejects the idea due to financial issues and suggests having children instead for excitement. The next morning, Truman sees a homeless man who looks just like his late father. Surprised, he tries to talk to him, but strangers take the man away on a bus before Truman can say anything. Truman tries to follow but encounters obstacles. Later, he tells his mother about the incident, but she dismisses it as his imagination. Frustrated, Truman goes to the basement and looks through old family pictures, finding a red sweater with a pin that says, "How's it going to end?" This triggers a flashback to Truman's college days, where he's practicing with his band for an upcoming event. Suddenly, Truman becomes mesmerized by a girl named Lauren. But before he can approach her, Meryl interrupts and Lauren disappears. Over the following months, Truman and Meryl fall in love, yet Truman can't shake thoughts of Lauren. Eventually, Truman encounters Lauren at the library and asks her out. She cryptically indicates that they must go out immediately or not at all. They sneak out, evading cameras, and head to the beach, where they kiss. Suddenly, a car arrives, and Lauren, now Sylvia, panics. She reveals the truth to Truman. His entire world is a lie. An old man claiming to be Sylvia's father apologizes for her behavior, calls her mentally unstable, and says they're going to Fiji. He warns Truman not to search for Sylvia again. Truman is left with Sylvia's sweater and confusion. Back in his basement, Truman tries to reconstruct Sylvia's face using magazine clippings from his office, attempting to remember her true appearance. As Truman drives to work, his car radio starts picking up strange signals. It begins discussing Truman's movements and attire, as if someone is narrating his life. Surprised, Truman heads toward a building near his office. He tries to take the elevator but notices employees wearing microphones and headphones, seemingly broadcasting something. They scatter when they see Truman. Unfortunately, Truman's curiosity leads to trouble as security guards throw him out for trespassing. Frustrated, Truman confides in his friend Marlon about the strange events, but Marlon brushes it off as imagination. Despite this, Truman tells Marlon about his plan to pursue his dream trip soon. At home, Meryl and Truman's mother look at old family photos, while a TV show talks about virtual travel, hinting that people can explore the world from home. Strangely, those around Truman try to prevent him from leaving the island. Later, the women leave for a secret meeting, leaving Truman alone. He notices in wedding photos that Meryl is crossing her fingers, suggesting she didn't marry him sincerely. The next day, Truman packs for Fiji, but finds out there are no flights for a month at the local airport. Undeterred, he heads to Chicago by bus to catch a flight. However, The bus breaks down before it can even start, leaving Truman disappointed. In the next scene, Meryl comes home to find Truman sitting in his car, which surprises her. Truman invites her in and shows her how events around him seem to unfold predictably. He locks the car and takes Meryl on a mysterious drive off the island, despite her protests to go home. Truman cleverly navigates traffic and stops at the bridge connecting Sea Haven Island to the outside world. Though he's afraid of water, he gathers courage and drives across with his eyes closed, forcing Meryl to take the wheel. After successfully crossing, they're stopped by police due to a nearby power plant leak. Disheartened, Truman considers returning home, but a cop addresses him by name, sparking Truman's suspicions. He tries to escape but is quickly caught and taken back home. At night, Meryl tries to reassure Truman, but he's confused. She offers him a drink in an oddly promotional way, which angers Truman. He threatens her until Marlon arrives and takes him out for beers. Marlon reassures Truman that everything is normal and nobody is conspiring against him. Truman asserts his trust in Marlon, claiming he could never lie to his best friend. The scene then shifts to a studio where Christof is revealed to be feeding lines to Marlon. Christof is the director of The Truman Show, where Truman is the lead character. Marlon takes Truman to a bridge where the homeless man emerges, confirming Truman's belief that he is his father. Tears fill Truman's eyes as he embraces his father, while Christof directs his crew to capture the emotional moment. Truman is unaware that he is the star of the most watched live TV broadcast in history. The island of Sea Haven where Truman lives is not real. It's a giant set enclosed by a protective dome. The dome creates realistic effects and visuals to mimic the outside world, all controlled by Christof and his crew. Christof explains Truman's father's sudden appearance on a TV show, revealing his plans to manipulate Truman, including instilling a fear of water. Sylvia calls in to condemn Christof for trapping Truman on the island without his knowledge. Christof defends his actions, claiming he's provided Truman with a better life than the real world, and stating Truman is free to leave if he discovers the truth. Despite facing challenges, Truman tries to return to normal life. Sadly, Meryl leaves him due to his erratic behavior. At work, Truman meets Vivian, his new co-worker chosen by Christof to fall in love with Truman. In the evening, Truman cleans his basement and falls asleep. Concerned when Truman remains inactive for a long time, Christof orders his crew to call Truman's house, but Truman doesn't answer. As a result, Christof sends Marlon to Truman's house. Marlon discovers Truman missing from his bed and a hole in the basement leading to the garden. Christof is shocked, and with nothing to broadcast, he cuts the live transmission for the first time in the show's history, causing worldwide panic. Christof orders the crew to search for Truman, but they can't find him on land. Christof realizes Truman has escaped to the sea. Cameras locate Truman on a boat, and the live broadcast resumes. Crew members, unfamiliar with boats, are sent to retrieve him. Christof tries to scare Truman with simulated weather, but Truman remains resolute. Christof turns off the simulator, conceding Truman's determination. Truman's boat breaks through the fake sky, and he believes he's reached the end of the world. Miraculously, he floats on water, finds stairs, and reaches an exit door. Christof speaks to Truman for the first time, revealing himself as Truman's lifelong observer. He tries to convince Truman to stay, citing the pain of the outside world. Truman, determined to explore, greets Christof and leaves. Sylvia, witnessing this, is overjoyed and rushes out of her room. The movie concludes with people worldwide celebrating the end of The Truman Show, as Christof cuts off the live broadcast. That wraps up the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more similar content.